Prime Minister Olmert, it's great to have you here. Thank you for joining us.
I'm delighted.
In 2 weeks, the U.S. Embassy is moving to Jerusalem. You're not only a former prime minister, but you're also a former long-term mayor of Israel's capital. How significant is this? Do you see other countries following suit?
Well, I certainly hope that other countries will follow up. I'm not certain about that because, as you know, unfortunately, right after the announcement of the President, the United Nations General Assembly had a vote about it, and more than 120 nations voted, and most important, the countries that we really care for voted against it. But it's a process. It had to start somewhere. It should have happened many years ago. I can't forget that every single candidate for president in the United States over the last, at least the years that I can freshly remember, 50 years, always declared that when he will be elected, he will move the American embassy to Jerusalem. None of them did it, and the first who did it is Donald Trump. So he certainly deserves recognition for doing it. However, my friends, before we get overjoyed, let's not forget that in his speech, in his announcement, and in the actual move of the embassy, he refers to the west side of Jerusalem. And he also said that the final borders of Jerusalem will be determined in negotiations, which means that he does not necessarily accept, as by the way, lots of Israelis, the Jabal Mukaber and the refugee camp of Shuafat and Isawiya and all kind of other Arab neighborhoods ought to be part of the Jewish Jerusalem. I don't think that we need them, by the way. We would rather have a Jewish Jerusalem, and I hope that it will be recognized by the entire international community soon.
You know, you kind of hint to this, that there's no free lunch, right?
Pardon?
There's no free lunch. The president is moving the embassy. There's
Yes.
talk of this peace deal that he has been working on for the last year, might use this opportunity now to present it and make demands of Israel. What do you think is going to happen?
Look, you know, when you talk about a plan and a peace plan that is raised by President Trump, I believe that on these days you should be careful before you criticize it, because everyone was mocking at the president when he talked about North Korea, and something seems to happen there. I don't know yet if this is real peace. I don't know if it's a permanent, stable, and serious understanding. But I don't think that too many people believed 2 months ago that the day will come that they will see these two leaders, the rather heavy guy, hug with the president of Korea. For me, there is Korea and North Korea. South Korea is not what they call themselves. They call themselves Korea. Korea is Korea, and there is North Korea. Yet no one believed that the two leaders will meet in such a friendly manner and make a statement that they are concluding the historical rivalry and they are ready to make permanent peace. So, and that certainly the president deserves a recognition of some sort for creating it. I mean, you know, you can like, you can dislike, you can agree, you can disagree with Trump. It's easy both ways, by the way. But you can't ignore what happens. And you have to have enough tolerance, by the way, even if you're opposed to the president on other matters, to recognize what he is doing when he is doing the right things. So now when you ask me about a peace plan, first of all, I don't know. Second, I'm not certain that it depends only on the goodwill of the president. You need the other two partners to want to have it. And if I may say from my personal experience, and I was negotiating peace, as you know, it completely depends on the two sides. America can propose, but from past experience we know that America can't force any of the sides to do what they don't want to do. So therefore this is a question I don't know to say. It depends on what the plan will be. But for the time being, if the president will sponsor a serious, very thoughtful, very careful, very forthcoming peace initiative, I think it will be a positive step forward.
You mentioned North Korea. When you
Yes.
were prime minister back in 2007, you received information. Recently, this has been permitted for publication of how North Korea was helping Syria build a nuclear reactor.
Yes.
A reactor then you, as prime minister, after speaking to President Bush, asking him to take action, you decided to take out that reactor. When you think about what's happening now with Iran, with North Korea, you look at the wider region, what are the lessons that we can learn? Now, you had to be quiet for over 10 years about what happened in 2007. Now we can talk about it openly.
So let's start with being quiet. You know, I personally believe that it's better to be quiet and to do what needs to be done than to be noisy and not to do what needs to be done. Okay? So it is true, and it's been published just a month ago, that when I was prime minister, we destroyed atomic reactor that was just about to be completed, and plutonic reactor, which means that its only purpose could be the creation of an atomic bomb to be used against Israel. By the way, not too many, and I'm sure you noticed, but you are very knowledgeable. Listen, how many people can say that they were the editors-in-chief of one of the most prestigious papers in the world, the Jerusalem Post?
Thank you.
So you must know that on the 17th of on the 17th of July 2008, a month and a half before the atomic reactor in Syria was destroyed by our Air Force, the president of Syria, Bashar Assad, the same Bashar Assad, made a speech in the Syrian parliament. And he said something that no one in his parliament understood. But I did, because I had the information they didn't share. He said that there are many things that are changing now in the Middle East, and the next few months will be crucial to developments that will change entirely the region and maybe the whole world. And he, of course, meant that when Syria will become a possessor of nuclear power, everything in the Middle East and maybe more will be changed. He didn't live to see it, because the atomic reactor was destroyed a month and a half later by Israel. We never talked about it for a simple reason. You know what they said in this famous movie? If you need to shoot, shoot, don't talk.
So if I could just take that forward for a moment. If you're going to shoot, shoot, don't talk, there's a bit of a hint of criticism, I think, in what you're saying here of Israel's current prime minister, maybe with a lot of talk, a lot of bluster when it comes to Iran, but Iran has not been stopped.
Number one, look, no one will blame me or Bibi for being friends. So you don't think that I made all the way from Israel to here to declare what is obvious anyway. We are not friends, but I didn't come here in order to criticize him or to, or to attack him. You know, he has got a lot on his head, and I only wish him personally that he will get out of it. But that's not the issue. The issue is that what we could do with Syria, we can't do with Iran. And that's, we could, in Syria, it was relatively close. There was one construction, an atomic reactor, that was the whole thing. Once you destroy it, you destroy their capabilities. until they decide to build a new one, which is a matter of years. In Iran, things are built in an entirely different way. First of all, the distance is much longer. Second, the construction of their capabilities is spread in different sites, most of it underground, and therefore the ability of Israel to destroy the potential Iranian buildup of nuclear capabilities is much smaller. It requires a different type of ability, and therefore, at the time that I was Prime Minister and I dealt with Iran in many different ways, which I can't discuss. But believe me, Israel did many things which are extraordinary by any standard, that you will not know about for many more years. Maybe your grandchildren once will learn about it and they will be very proud of what the State of Israel did in order to make sure that we will not be in a danger of a nuclear capacity of Iran. But when the issue of attacking Iran in a similar manner as we did in Syria was raised, the unified position of all the experts of security, including the heads of Mossad, of Shabak, of the Chief of Staff, who was here before, Gabi Ashkenazi, and others, was that the most Israel can damage their ability by sustaining it for 2 years. That's all.
So that explains why you stood up to push on Syria, but not on Iran.
Yeah, that's why I thought, as many, that the dangers of making this attack was much greater than the possible achievement that we were looking for. And the most important thing was to move the nations of the world, including the United States of America and the Russians and the Chinese and the others, to join forces together in order to stop it. I hope they did something. Therefore, I think that the agreement that the President, for instance, Trump thinks is a ridiculous agreement, I'm not so certain that he is right. It's better than what was before. It's worse than what may have been achieved. So if there is an alternative viable that can be accomplished soon, then I'll definitely support those who want to change the agreement. If there is not, I would not suggest that anyone will rush to cancel this agreement without finding an alternative that will be effective and useful.
I want to move with you to the Palestinians for a moment.
What?
I want to move with you to the Palestinians for a moment. You were one of the...
You want these guys to be against me?
No,
for the time being, they seem to be positive. It's all right.
You were the closest to reach a deal with the Palestinians, I would say, in the last almost 15 years. It was the last time that there were real face-to-face direct negotiations. In the end, you made an offer, as you write in your recent biography, you made an offer to Abbas, Abu Mazen, and he walked away. He never came back with an answer.
That's right. He never said no, he never said yes.
So do you think peace, though, today is even possible? Is there even what to talk about?
Look, number one, you just said that there is a possibility of a peace plan sponsored by President Trump. So if I'll say that I believe that a peace agreement can be achieved, I'll be the second to think so, because I don't believe that Trump will propose a peace plan unless he believes that it can be achieved. So it may not be so unrealistic to believe that we can achieve a peace between us and the Palestinians. Now, I'll tell you what. I really admire the desire of the American government to want to make peace. But it depends on two guys, on the Prime Minister of the day in Israel, whoever he will be. Today it's Netanyahu, maybe, I don't know who will be tomorrow, I don't know. But whoever who will be or replace Netanyahu at some point, okay, and I'm not really hinting at anything, I just say in principle. And the guy that will be the representative of the Palestinians, they need to look at it as the greatest desire of their lives to make peace. Because, believe me, at the end of the day, this is the one thing that separates Israel from an extraordinary breakthrough that will make our country the greatest place on earth. I'm serious. If there will be peace between us and the Palestinians, and I'm not talking about what it requires, okay? I don't want, because I don't know what Trump is going to propose, and I don't want to suggest something that may not necessarily be compatible to what he says. I don't want to interfere. I don't think it will be appropriate and responsible, and I don't want to do it. But I say, if there will be peace between us and the Palestinians, and that I can say, and I know, overnight there will be peace between Israel and tens of Arabs and Muslim countries in the region and across the world. And Israel will become the capital of the Middle East. And all the wealth and the money and the industries and the tourists and the finances of the Middle East will go through Tel Aviv, because they know how capable we are. They look at the potential of Israel. They look at the strengths of Israel. And many of them want to be part of a region where Israel is a friend. But they will not do it unless there will be peace between us and the Palestinians, because all of these countries are a little bit scared and a little bit concerned about the potential reaction of the radicals that live in some of those countries that can never accept open relations between Israel and those countries unless there is an agreement between us and the Palestinians. So an agreement between us and the Palestinians is essential for creating stability in our country and in the neighborhood that we are part of, and it's also the gate through which a dramatic political and economic and military developments can take place that will make the life of all our region entirely different from what it used to be.
I want to ask you about another piece, though. Another piece, and this is the peace between, I want to ask you about the peace between our people. Last year was a decision taken by the Israeli government to reverse an earlier decision to build a third prayer plaza at the Kotel, at the Western Wall. It seems that there's a growing divide. You, as Prime Minister, worked hard on trying to bridge those gaps.
Yeah, I must say, if there is one thing,
with what you're seeing?
There is one thing, Jacob, that I can't refrain from saying openly and publicly, in spite of the fact that it may be sound as a criticism on the Israeli government, and it is the indifference, is the rudeness, and is the aggressiveness against major parts of the Jewish people outside of Israel. I'm not a Reform Jew. I'm a secular person. Okay, I'm not a Reformer, I'm not a conservative, I'm not Orthodox. When I was mayor of Jerusalem, you know that the Orthodox community was my best partner. And never did I pretend to be an Orthodox. And they knew it. But I respected what they deserved, because I thought, for instance, that even if you are a Haredi boy at the age of 6, you deserve to study in a proper classroom rather than in the entrance to a house or in a caravan without the minimal conditions. Regardless of where you come from and what is your background and what is your belief and what is your way of life. You are a citizen in the state of Israel, you deserve it. And it's true about the Haredim, it's true about the Chilonim, it's true about Jews, and it's true about Arabs that are part of the state of Israel. And we have to respect them if they are citizens of Israel. Okay? Now, to deny the rights of Jews that are not Orthodox to share the heritage, the legacy, the historical memories, the historical desires of the Jewish people in the most holy place of places for the Jewish people is to disqualify them as Jews. And this is absolutely unacceptable and intolerable. And I think that this was one of the most tragic mistakes that the government of Israel made in order to satisfy a minority of Haredim in the government for the wrong reasons. I can't accept it. I've invested tens of years of my life going all over America and other communities of Jews, and to tell those that were observant and those that were secular and those that were reforms and conservatives, that they are all part of our community and that we need them and want their contributions and want their investments and want their involvement and want their sacrifice for the Jewish people and the state of Israel. So to come to them now and to say, yes, but you are not allowed to come to the Kotel in the way that you want to come to the Kotel, because only according to a specific way of thinking it will be permissible? No way. I'm sorry.
I think you were quite clear on that. Lastly, you were in a similar situation in 2008 with police investigations when you were prime minister to the situation that Bibi, that Prime Minister Netanyahu, is currently facing. Any recommendations of what you think he should do?
Well, you know, don't misunderstand it. I know this guy. He's a good guy. He's a good man. He asks it from the positive point of view, not from the negative point of view. Let me tell you this. Number one, I really wish Bibi, the Prime Minister of Israel, the best as far as he and everyone that is important for him is concerned. Now, what I had to say about my case, I wrote it at length, across 900 pages in Hebrew. The English version will be longer probably, because you know it's always longer in English than in Hebrew. So nothing is missing. I have spelled out everything that I thought about my case, and what I thought was the unjust and unfair persecution that was committed in my case. But this is mine. I don't have any advice to the Prime Minister except for one. And I hope that he will accept it in good faith. Whatever he decides to do, which I don't know, and I am not familiar with enough of the facts to be able to say something conclusive one way or the other, whatever he decides to do, I suggest that he will bear in mind that it is very important to maintain the dignity of the position of Prime Minister in Israel, in the eyes of himself and in the eyes of the almost 9 million people that live in Israel and the so many that look at the state of Israel. It's his decision to make, and he will have to decide how to do it. I don't say go home, I don't say stay. I don't hide the fact that I'm not his greatest supporter, okay? So I'm not trying to play any game. I don't support the Prime Minister, I don't support his policies. I think he is wrong in many things, and I criticize him at home in the most explicit manner. But what to do in this very delicate situation, I don't know. I only hope that he will remember that the position of Prime Minister of Israel is more important than any person, individual person, that is in that job at a particular time. Because the state of Israel will stay forever.
So one last question. Is there a comeback? Is there a comeback in your future?
Listen, when I heard...
Well, you didn't say no right away, so...
When I heard that the Jerusalem Post, such a prestigious paper, invites me to speak in New York at the annual meeting, I said, I'm so privileged that you want to hear what I have to say. Why do I have to be in politics in order to spell it out? You see, I spoke, didn't I? Did I not say what I think? Did you not understand what I had to say? You did. That's good enough. Thank you.
Ehud Olmert, thank you very much.